in 2026. So a little bit about me for those of you guys who don't know me. My name is Rachel Betterbid, although I have been called many things at these conferences, my favorite being Mrs. Butterfield. But you can just call me RB. Most people in the Coalmarch world just call me RB. We've got quite a few Rachels. Again, for those of you who don't know me, I work with Coalmarch. I'm in charge of our client delivery teams over there. So that's our account management team, our search teams, our digital ads teams, essentially all of the teams that work on helping our clients achieve success. I got about 10 years of experience in lawn and pest marketing and mostly in digital marketing. I've done a little bit of everything, but really my true passion lies in the leadership side of things. I love system building, I love people development, and really just solving complex problems. So appreciate you all joining me today. Welcome, everybody. So in today's session, we're going to be talking about how search is evolving, what AI readiness looks like for your digital marketing strategy, what digital visibility and success looks like and how that's changing going into 2026, how Coalmarch can make your digital marketing strategy AI ready, and then some key takeaways and a little bit of homework. So to start things off, warning, this question may age you. But to kind of set the stage, I'm curious, what was the most common way that you found information growing up? Just shout out some answers.
Asking my parents.
Asking your parents, okay.
Newspapers.
Newspapers, yeah.
I'll say it out loud. Encyclopedia.
Encyclopedia, I was thinking that.
I'm with you. Yeah.
What else?
AOL.
AOL.
Ask Jeeves.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves. Well, as we can tell from some of these answers, there have been several big revolutions in the last century of how people find information. Again, mass print, broadcast media, digital databases, obviously the internet, social media, AI. All that to say that we're in one massive revolution right now. Search is evolving before our very eyes, and if we don't pay attention, we just might miss it. Let's see. It's not working, but for the better part of the last, honestly, more than a decade, the last 15 years, search has been the primary growth engine, I'm sure, for many of your businesses, especially in this industry. And during that time, it pretty much meant one thing, right? It meant a Google results page and a list of links. And that model worked incredibly well for a lot of businesses for a very long period of time. But today, search isn't really a place anymore. It's not just Google, it's more of a behavior. As consumers, we're asking questions every single day across a growing ecosystem of platforms, tools, interfaces, and the questions that we ask are more nuanced, more conversational, more comprehensive than ever. We're not just asking what anymore. We're asking who, why, how, what about X, Y, and Z, and most importantly, what's best for me? What should I do? I think we're all feeling a little bit of decision fatigue as a society, and so we're overwhelmed by the amount of choice and consideration and comparison, and there's just so much information being thrown at us at all hours of the day. And so instead of doing the research to evaluate everything ourselves, we're outsourcing it, right? Just like we're outsourcing so many things in our lives. Increasingly turning to platforms and systems that we trust to help us decide faster, because again, we're just so tired. So we want someone to help do it for us. And among those platforms, of course, Google is still one of them, no doubt, but it's also a laundry list of other tools: ChatGPT, TikTok, YouTube, Reddit, Nextdoor, Alexa, the list goes on. All that being said, search is more expansive than ever, and we sort of instinctively choose different tools to use based on the information that we're looking for, or the kind of support that we're looking for, or even our environment and the state of mind that we're in, right? So what does modern search look like going into 2022? Again, we're still using Google. Most people day to day are still going to Google and searching things. We're usually doing that more for quick answers, quick navigation, local information, whereas people are turning more towards generative AI search for more complex questions, explanations, summaries, planning, task support. We use video platforms like YouTube for more visual how-tos, product reviews, demonstrations. We turn to social for, understanding industry trends, community opinions, discovering new products, new ideas. We use voice search for, quick hands-free answers for simple questions, like when you're cooking in the kitchen and you just ask random questions. I don't know if anyone else does that. But as you can tell, search has become extremely fragmented in 2026, and it didn't fragment randomly. It fragmented because human behavior did, and it followed suit. So the one that we're going to talk about most today, which I'm sure you can infer, is going to be generative AI and what that means for your business and what that means for your digital marketing strategy. So let's look at the data. If we look at search market share from 2025, Q4 is really when ChatGPT made a really big, meaningful dent in Google's market share. So for those of you who are not super familiar, I mean, Google has obviously dominated market share when it comes to search. And ChatGPT has made a really big dent going into 2026. So we know that conversational AI, as we just talked about, is used more for complex questions, explanations, planning, all of that. Not necessarily transactional searches like finding a pest control provider. And that's why this right chart matters more, because on the left chart we see when we look at pretty much all searches across the globe, Google is still dominating, but ChatGPT has made a pretty big impact at about 20% market share of searches. That is significant. No one has gone up against Google like that pretty much since its inception. But when we look at the right chart and we look at transactional queries only, and when we isolate that, again, transactional queries being more like products, services, things related to your business, Google clearly still dominates. So the shift is not as impactful as it is for other industries, especially websites whose primary goal is to just convey information and get traffic. They have seen huge hits from this market share kind of transition. But all that being said, it's still a shift nonetheless, and it's only going to continue to grow. So with this shift, we have to think about our digital marketing a little bit differently. We're no longer just marketing directly to customers or just trying to please Google, which I'm sure many of you have felt like you have done the last 10 years of your business. I know I definitely have. But in 2026, AI is really the new middleman that we have to consider with everything that we do, interpreting questions, filtering options, and shaping what people see and what they think. So for years, the job was pretty simple, especially as a digital marketer. Rank on Google, drive sessions, eventually you'll drive sales. And while that is still true to a certain extent, your website also takes on a new role, and that's teaching AI who you are, what you do, who you're the best fit for, and whether you're someone worth them citing and recommending. So that is the change. Marketing isn't just about persuading people yourselves anymore. It's really about making sure that AI understands your business well enough to do the persuading for you. So with this shift happening, the good news is, again, for this industry, the lawn and pest side of things, it's happening a lot slower and less aggressively than it is for other industries. This shift has really turned a lot of industries upside down. And the good news in that is that we have time to be more proactive than reactive in what we're doing. So what does this mean going into 2026, especially knowing that big shift happened Q4 of 2025? It's just going to continue to shift. So we're going to walk through what an AI readiness framework looks like for your business and your digital marketing strategy so that you can stay ahead of the curve and competitive as things continue to shift. So one important thing for us to level set on before we go any further is kind of the difference between how search engines operate and a tool like ChatGPT. They are not the same. So traditional SEO is not the same as AI optimization. While there are a lot of parallels and a lot of similar techniques, these systems work in fundamentally different ways. So traditional search engines are really designed to find and then rank the most relevant information. It sources fresh, real-time content, it indexes it, and then it sends users, through links on Google. And that's why historically SEO has focused on rankings, keywords, click-through rate, right? It works a very specific way. But generative search tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, they work entirely differently. Instead of retrieving links, it creates responses. It synthesizes information across many, many sources. It analyzes patterns. It delivers personalized recommendations based on the person that it believes it's talking to. And it often doesn't send them anywhere else, right? It doesn't often send you to a website. The big difference here is that with ChatGPT, its reasoning and creativity is really strong, whereas with search engines, there's not much, if at all. So because of these core differences, optimizing for AI really requires a new way of thinking, and not just from a digital marketing perspective, but also from a business perspective. And all that to say, it doesn't replace traditional SEO, but it does force us to expand and kind of add another layer of optimization and strategy behind it. So that distinction is going to be the foundation for the framework that we're walking through. So again, knowing that it works fundamentally different than search engines. So with the creativity and reasoning aspect, AI doesn't just retrieve information like a search engine does, it actively evaluates it. Search engines will ask, what pages match the query that the person is searching, where AI is more asking which business looks the most credible, which looks the most reliable based on everything I can see and what I think the person actually cares about that I'm talking to. And so that core difference there raises the bar because AI evaluates more holistically. Being AI ready needs to be built in layers, right? It's not really a single optimization tactic that you can just deploy tomorrow. It's really having alignment across your business operations, your digital reputation, your SEO, your paid advertising. And when all of those different layers tell a consistent story, that's when AI can confidently recommend your business. So this graphic is kind of the way that I believe we need to think about AI readiness. It's not a checklist, but rather a pyramid, which every layer matters and builds upon the other. So at the foundation is going to be what we call the reality layer. And that's going to be how your business actually operates, how it's structured, and how you consistently deliver on whatever it is that you say you do. On top of that is the verification and understanding layer, and that's your digital reputation and how trust is confirmed, how you make your business and the information about your business legible to these machines, both through SEO and also website structure and content and all that fun stuff. And then at the very top is the amplification layer, and that's how paid media scales what already works in those layers underneath it. So the key idea here is that AI doesn't create credibility, it amplifies what credibility already exists. So if the foundation is strong, everything above it will work better. If it's weak, no amount of SEO optimization or ad spend is going to fix it. So over the next few slides, we're kind of going to break down each layer and what being AI ready looks in all of these different areas. Starting with a reality that none of us as business people can hide from, right? And that is our business operations. So let's do a quick gut check, not for judgment, just curious. I'm curious by a show of hands, how many of you would say that you feel like your operations are completely aligned with your marketing messaging? Jeff, our CEO, is raising his hand. Okay, so a few, but not all. And again, that question's not meant to call anyone out. It's meant to kind of set the stage because, like I said before, AI optimization doesn't really start with just tactics. It really starts with analyzing and looking at how your business actually operates. So before we talk about SEO, ads, content, we really need to look at the foundation and what being AI ready really means within your business structure. So here's the hard truth. AI can't recommend what your business can't reliably deliver. So if your operations are inconsistent, if your services are unclear, or maybe they're fragmented, if what you do doesn't line up with what you say you do, AI is going to clock that, and your visibility will be limited no matter, how much optimization you try to do, and no matter how strong your digital marketing strategy is. One important shift to understand here is that AI is increasingly evaluating reliability, not just relevance, whereas search engines are definitely more focused on relevance than anything. Obviously reliability, they look at reviews, but not at the level at which an AI tool like Gemini or ChatGPT is. And the tricky part is that those operational gaps that you have that are kind of hidden and on the inside, they don't really stay internal anymore. They surface as visibility signals for AI tools. So things like consistent missed or unanswered calls, inconsistency or confusion around the services that you provide, the treatments that you use, the areas in which you service, gaps between what you say you do and what customers actually experience, slow response times, poor inconsistent follow-up, right? All of these things are going to impact AI's perception of your business and its reliability. And again, I want to be clear, this isn't a judgment because as you know, all of us that work within businesses, every business struggles with some form of this, right? Nobody is perfect. The difference is now that AI can see these patterns a lot more and a lot easier than search engines can, and these patterns will influence your visibility. So how do you build an AI-ready business in 2026 from the inside out? Do you have a question?
Yeah, so when you're saying it's looking at that, is it looking at Google reviews and combining them with like Yelp, and I mean, is it going across all platforms then?
Yeah, we'll go through that for sure. So it all starts with focusing on something very simple but very powerful, delivering consistency in what you say and what customers experience. So again, powerful, but it's also like, yeah, of course. But what does that really mean? It means not over-promising and under-delivering, which I think a lot of companies have a habit of doing, right? Because you just want to get someone to call you, and so you want to make everything seem as peachy as it can. But really making sure that your operations can realistically fulfill what your marketing communicates. So an example in this industry is, you know, you have all over your ads in your website that you do same-day service, but if you don't actually have the operations to deliver on that, that's basically marketing fluff. But yeah, in general, reducing that marketing fluff in favor of being, clear and accurate about what you do and how you do it. So how many of you, I see a lot of green lanyards in the lawn industry, have, some sort of verbiage on your website that's like, get a perfectly healthy green lawn with our service, when in reality, you know that if the customer themselves aren't diligent about mowing and watering, that's probably not going to happen, right? Or if you're in the pest industry and you say, we will get rid of all mosquitoes once and for all, never see a mosquito again. That's not really true. You can only significantly reduce the population, but they're probably still going to have mosquito bites, right? So it's not about not selling, it's just about being more realistic with what you do and what people can expect. Another one is having clear and transparent pricing logic, and I kind of want to pause here because I know that not everyone is comfortable putting their pricing on their website, and I understand that, but I do think that avoiding the conversation of price isn't going to do you any favors when it comes to AI recommending you. And again, that is because AI, especially if you use ChatGPT a lot, they know a lot about you based on everything that you're asking it and you're telling it about what you value. So what does this look like in actuality? It means addressing costs instead of avoiding it entirely. It means providing pricing structures based on tiers, ranges, even starting prices, explaining what exactly impacts your price and why, and really keeping that logic consistent across all the different platforms where you have that information. So, when that pricing logic is clear, AI can set realistic expectations and customers can feel confident that you're the right fit for them. So again, the shift here is it's not about giving away sales leverage, it's about building trust through transparency, which more and more people in this day and age really value in businesses. The next layer is having a clear business model and clearly defined services. AI looks for patterns that make sense, and it wants to understand what it is that you offer and how all of those services fit together. So as smart as AI is, in some ways, it doesn't understand your industry. Same with Google. So, an example in the lawn and pest industry, Google and AI, they don't really understand the nuance between lawn care and lawn mowing, right? They don't understand that some companies offer mowing, but not chemical treatments, and vice versa. They don't understand that some companies do landscaping, but they don't do fertilization for grass, right? Like all of these nuances, it doesn't understand. Or if you're a pest control company and you treat some pests, but not others, it doesn't understand that. When people are looking for exterminators, they assume they treat all bugs. So what does this actually look like? It looks like having those clearly defined services that logically connect, offerings that feel more comprehensive versus fragmented. So again, if you're a pest control company, but you offer weed control and that's the only little bit of lawn care you do, that's hard for AI to understand. It's probably going to be more likely to recommend a company that offers more holistic lawn care and all of those services. And then also having consistent service availability across all of your service areas. If you only do a few services in a few areas, again, that just complicates it for AI to understand and therefore to surface your business. So this isn't about offering everything, but it definitely helps when you have a more comprehensive suite of services that are within your niche and it's not fragmented. So again, being clear about what you do and how it fits together and where you deliver it, that sort of clarity creates confidence for both AI and for customers. The next piece is setting clear expectations and defining processes for customers. So that includes what the first visit is going to look like, how often your service occurs, what results to expect and when, how results and outcomes may vary based on what the customer needs to do, how issues are handled if things go wrong. Again, getting rid of that marketing fluff and replacing it with content of substance. But all of this only works if your marketing vendor or your team really understands the nuances of all your protocols and your processes. So they can't represent what they don't understand. So working really closely to make sure whoever is doing your website content and your marketing really understands those nuances and can represent your business accurately. AI pulls from the story of your business from all different kinds of sources and channels. So again, if that story is vague, if it's inconsistent, the confidence is going to drop. Lastly, the last piece with this foundational layer is clearly defining your treatment methods and also a clear philosophy in how and why you do the work that you do. So what does this look like? It means making sure that your values as a business are reflected in everything that you do, being transparent about the products that you use and why you use them, and really just ultimately differentiating yourself from any other kind of Joe Schmo company that is so basic and doing the exact thing that you're doing, without a real purpose at hand. And so, again, we talked about this. This is really important because AI is increasingly personalizing results based on what its users cares about, right? It has so much information about us as people if you're using it regularly, and while that's terrifying, it knows the things that you care about, right? So if you really care about safety, or if you care more about effectiveness, environmental impact, financial concern, family, pet considerations, right? Like if you as a business do not clearly articulate your philosophy and your values, AI, again, may not confidently match you to what it thinks the person cares about. So again, this isn't about convincing everyone, but it is really honing in on who is your target customer, what are their values, and how do you meet them there with those same shared values. So really the key takeaway here is that a shaky business cannot be propped up by AI, and if your operations are inconsistent, if they're overly complex or unreliable, or even if you haven't really taken the time to sit and think what your philosophy is or what your values are, your AI visibility, all of that will suffer. Marketing optimization doesn't create strength within an organization, it really just amplifies the strength that already exists. And that is why I think AI optimization really has to start with the foundation, not just the tools, even though those are important as well. So the next layer we're going to be talking about is what I call the verification letter. And this is where AI asks, do I understand what this business does, and do I trust what it says about itself? Your SEO is what you claim about your business, and then your digital reputation is how those claims get confirmed, or hopefully not, but maybe contradicted by the outside world. And generative search and AI uses all kinds of signals to validate reliability. So going back to your question, we'll kind of go through what are the sources that it looks at to validate that. But let's get one thing out of the way, because I feel like, working with clients, I've definitely heard this a lot. Is SEO dead? SEO doesn't matter. Should I stop doing SEO? SEO is not dying, it's merely expanding. This isn't the end of search optimization, it's simply the beginning of the next phase, which is everything that we've been doing plus another layer on top of it. So how has search expanded more from traditional search, again, SEO being more built to match keywords to pages based on what people are searching, whereas modern search, again, especially when AI is involved, it's more built to understand people. And so that means that it looks at things like search and prompt specificity, it's predicting follow-up intent, it's looking at related context across multiple conversations or searches within the system. Again, we talked a lot about user customization, like values, and ultimately it's really looking at what information helps someone make a decision and how can I provide more of that helpful information throughout our future interactions. So because of that, the shift isn't away from traditional SEO, it's just expanding beyond just keyword targeting to more conversation coverage. So traditional keyword-based SEO will ask things like, can we rank for this term, where conversation-based SEO and search optimization asks more, can we clearly support the questions, concerns, and all of the decisions that surround this broader topic? And so that changes how content is written, how it's structured, and also how we measure success. But we have to do that without abandoning SEO fundamentals, because those fundamentals are still extremely important. But like I said, there's a new layer on top of it. So it's not replacing it, it's just adding more. So yeah, SEO didn't die, it's simply maturing just like we all do. So AI does not rely on a single source. It looks at how your business is being talked about across the entire internet, and it checks for consistency across many independent signals. So that includes things like industry and regulatory authorities. So if you're in the pest business, National Pest Management Association, state or regional industry association websites being referenced there. It looks at review and reputation platforms, so not just Google Business Profile, but Facebook, Yelp, Better Business Bureau, and then on-demand service apps like Angie, Thumbtack, Home Advisor. It's using and citing businesses on those apps as well. But it also looks at trusted publishers and editorial content, just like search engines do. So Consumer Reports, Forbes, This Old House, local news outlets or best of lists, all of those as well are really big ones that they analyze as a source. And then there's also some overlap with SEO as far as structured data sources and aggregators, brand-owned content, right, which your website, it's looking at your website to learn and reference what you do, but then it's also looking at community and discussion platforms. So local blogs, websites, sponsorships, forum mentions like Reddit, Nextdoor, all of those things. Essentially, it's looking for corroboration, multiple sources that are saying the same story, and when those signals align, the trust increases, and when the trust increases, the visibility increases. So how do you get AI ready when it comes to your SEO and your digital reputation? Again, it all starts with AI understanding what you do and who you do it for. That needs to be the #1 priority. Because brand-owned content, aka your website, is a major source that AI relies on, that's where your website becomes the middleman. You're not just advertising to consumers, you're educating and you're teaching AI. So it's very clear to create that clarity and understanding on your website. So what does that look like? One big one is having persona-specific content that appeals to certain audiences. So really honing in on who your target audience is, right? If you're trying to appeal to everyone, you're appealing to no one. So really getting clear on that and communicating those values up front and personalizing that versus using more generic marketing messaging. It's also having question-led content that supports those decisions, and it covers broader conversations and topics beyond just singular keyword optimization. But it's also how that content is presented on your website. So it needs to be structured in a way that is easy to summarize, it's easy for AI to reference, and it connects across topics. So things like bullet points, using headings, asking questions, things of those nature. And then also, this is more on the SEO side of things, probably won't resonate with business owners, but intentionally and strategically internally linking all of your pages together and showing and reinforcing the meaning and the topical relationships across your services, different topics that you're writing about, as well as your service areas. And that's extremely important if you have a very large service area. How do all those service areas connect? Not a hot take, as this is a big part of just SEO and business in general, but obviously consistency in review signals is extremely important as well. So AI looks for the same story being told everywhere. So it's not just reviews on Google. I think a lot of businesses here probably primarily focus on that. But it's also Yelp, Better Business Bureau, other platforms. And again, the key here is to share similar sentiments across all of those review platforms, as well as visible responsiveness and accountability, because inconsistency is a really big red flag. But from there, reputation really becomes an operational signal. AI can detect if there is repeated feedback around certain themes like pricing, communication, service quality, and the strongest businesses use that feedback to actually refine their setting of expectations, improve their operations, improve their marketing messaging, and ensure that their marketing, again, promises actually match the real customer experience. So this is something I know we at Coalmarch have definitely started to talk to our clients about of, it's not just about getting reviews, but are you actually using that data? Are you analyzing it? Are you finding the themes and where expectations could have been set better? And guess what? The great part is that AI can do that for you. You can paste, all of your reviews and pretty much say, find the top 3 biggest points of feedback and kind of go from there. But the point here is to really actually use that feedback to refine your services and your experience. Finally, AI looks for authority and consistency offsite, outside of your website and also outside of reviews. It checks whether, oh, sorry, this went flying. It checks whether third parties, again, are validating what it is that you're saying. So things like external backlinks, brand mentions across the internet, business citations, and making sure that it's consistent across those platforms. And really, again, the key takeaway here is that it's not evaluating your reputation and your SEO separately. It's looking at how trust and clarity and consistency reinforce each other in all of these different ways. And so when all of these four things are in alignment, that's when AI can confidently recommend your business. So the key takeaway here is that search isn't dying, it's getting more demanding, and if anything, that actually makes your SEO and your website more important than ever. This is a hill I will die on, but mark my words, I feel pretty confident that the businesses that continue to invest in their search strategy right now are going to be the ones that come out on top in the next 5 years, versus the ones that say, SEO doesn't matter, none of this matters, I'm gonna cut my costs, I'm gonna stop updating my website, I'm not gonna put anything into it. Mark my words. Hopefully I'll be able to have some case studies of that in 5 years from now. Okay, let's talk about paid strategy. Once AI trusts and understands your business, your paid strategy really becomes your amplifier. So again, it doesn't fix the weak foundation, but it does help scale strong ones if you have one. And that's what this final layer is all about, amplification. So one important thing to level set on is that AI really hasn't massively disrupted paid media yet. For most businesses today, especially in this industry, ads are still working, click-through rates haven't collapsed, budgets are still spendable, and paid media on Google is still driving a large percentage of leads. So this really isn't about panic, but it does raise an important set of questions. Because if AI is becoming a significant interface that people are using for search and decision making, how and when will they monetize that experience? Because they got to make their money somehow, and they can't be in the red forever. And when they do, how will businesses be able to buy into visibility inside of those AI-driven environments? And those questions matter because paid media doesn't disappear, it evolves like everything else, and the businesses that are ready will be the ones that are best positioned to adapt when that shift does happen, even though it hasn't really happened yet. But because of that, your paid strategy in 2026 really shouldn't be about reacting to disruption. If anything, it's about intentionally preparing for the disruption because it absolutely will happen. As AI-driven environments continue to emerge and become well adopted, paid media and your strategy with paid is going to have to expand beyond Google placements. And the businesses that succeed will be the ones that are already achieving the alignment in all of these other areas that we talked about, so that when those new opportunities do appear, they can move pretty quickly and confidently and see success. So preparation is the advantage here, and my dad always used to tell me growing up, failing to prepare is preparing to fail, and I swear that is set in my brain. So how do you get your paid strategy actually AI ready? It all starts with designing your ads for intent, not just for clicks. So a lot of what we're saying, right? Get rid of vague promotions. Instead, fill it with content of substance. So answer real questions that people have: who the service is for, what problem it solves, what someone should expect if they reach out, really moving away from generic language or even especially marketing fluffy language. And the same goes for your landing pages. They shouldn't exist just to capture a click. They should really give people the information that they need for them to decide if you are a good fit for them. And so that means being clear about your service scope, your pricing, timelines, maybe even who your services aren't ideal for. The goal isn't to get everyone to click, it's to earn that consideration from the right customers. And so when ads and landing pages help users and consumers self-qualify, your performance in general will improve because the intent is stronger before the lead ever comes in. So oftentimes, if you struggle with high cost per leads with Google Ads or low conversion rates, it may not even be your website, it may not be the messaging, it may be intent. And that's why intent is so important. So once your ads are designed to earn that consideration, the next step, again, is alignment. And so your paid messaging has to match the reality because, like we've already established, those gaps between promises and expectations, they don't stay hidden. And so that means not over-promising, not having vague offers that aren't real offers, but you just have them there because you want to make people think that they're saving money. your ads should really accurately represent all of the things that we've already talked about. And so when paid messaging reflects that reality, leads are going to come in more informed, expectations are going to be clear, and performance will be better across the board because they will convert at a higher rate. So the most important piece here is really being prepared for new surfaces and formats. I don't know, for those of you who haven't heard, ChatGPT basically announced that ads are coming in the next coming weeks for free users. So if you are one of the highest paid tiered users, you will not see ads. Obviously, they're trying to protect the customer experience. But for anyone who's using free in the lowest tier, ads are going to start showing up at the bottom. And they're actually starting with products and services. So buckle up and get ready, because I think home services will probably be one of the first niches that they test this with. But really, businesses that win will be the ones that are willing to take risks and test these new formats as early as possible before they become oversaturated and expensive. We saw this a lot when local service ads launched for the lawn and pest industry. I want to say 2018. The ones that were on there that first year or two, leads were extremely cost effective, and then now they're extremely oversaturated because every company is advertising there. So yeah, all of this is about staying adaptable so that you can take advantage of what comes next, and it's coming real soon. The last piece of being AI ready with your paid strategy is how you measure success. If decisions are happening earlier and across more surfaces, cost per lead alone may not tell the full picture of what your paid ads are doing and how they're impacting your bottom line. It creates, paid ads does more than just convert leads, right? It can create exposure, familiarity, confidence, and that's why impressions and visibility still matter. They're signals of influence, not just pure ad waste, which is, I think, how a lot of people look at them now. And that's why brand recognition matters as well. Paid media, it doesn't just generate leads, it also supports future searches and future conversions by putting your business in front of someone's consideration set. And it also plays a role in assisted conversions. Someone may see an ad today and not convert, but weeks later they come back and they recognize your brand, and that influence doesn't disappear just because it wasn't their last click. And lastly, lead quality matters more than volume here. So if paid is doing his job, close rates should improve, and even if your raw lead counts don't. So AI-ready measurement looks at paid media in context across the full decision-making, not just in isolation of one metric. So that leads perfectly into our next section. So now that we've covered the strategy portion, let's talk about what measurement looks like, because the truth is the two have to work in tandem in order for it to be successful. So quick gut check. How many of you guys have seen traffic decline from your website in the last year? Only one? How many of you don't know? Okay. Okay. I asked that because the shift in search is creating a challenge that is catching a lot of business owners and also digital marketers off guard. When people interact with Google differently and search is expanding beyond Google, something strange starts to happen and our marketing KPIs stop working and behaving the way that we're used to. And so performance starts to look different, traffic becomes a less reliable source of demand and success, and really the clicks and the traffic and the sessions that we see stop lining up pretty clearly with leads and revenue, and that's usually when alarm bells go off for you as a business owner and also for us as digital marketers. When traffic is dipping, we assume something's broken, and we start maybe making decisions off of assumptions that aren't really ringing true anymore. And so the reality is behavior's changed, even if our dashboards haven't. So for a long time, digital marketing followed, especially in the lawn and pest industry, a pretty predictable measurement model. Success was rather linear and moved in a straight line as far as, you rank in the top organic spots, you secure, the top 2 placements with your ads. That visibility drives clicks, it drives sessions, you convert those sessions and that traffic into leads, and then, you pretty much optimize solely around cost per lead. That model worked really well when search was very centralized to one platform, and the path, again, was relatively linear, but that's not necessarily the case anymore. So what's important to say here, especially as you look at your marketing KPIs with your vendor, whoever it is that you're working with, that the metrics themselves aren't failing, it's our outdated assumptions around them. So a lot of digital reporting still assumes that visibility is solely your rankings, and that interest is solely clicks or the traffic you're getting to your website, and that conversions and decision making is decided solely upon the exposure that they have about your business on your website. But those assumptions were built for a much simpler search environment, and the goal isn't to throw these metrics out. They're still important, but we have to add and consider the context so that we're interpreting them correctly. So what does that look like? When we step back and we look at all this together, the issue isn't that performance is necessarily worse, it's that performance needs to be understood a little bit differently. Traditional KPIs, again, they still matter, they're still valued, but they can't be interpreted alone anymore. And so they need to be analyzed along new signals. And all this does is add more things to look at, and in a way, it makes it more complex, which is all the more important that you're working with someone that really understands how this needs to be assessed. Because, impressions and exposure is no longer just clicks. It's also impressions, calls, actions that are taken directly on Google that never result in a click to your website. Those things can indicate your exposure a lot more than just traffic, which is what we've historically looked at. So again, not just your organic and paid rankings, but also the exposure and the visibility that you have inside AI generated answers, both in the AI overview section on Google as well as ChatGPT. Also not focusing just on review volume and how many reviews that you have, but review sentiment, consistency across platforms, brand mentions and engagement across platforms, and ultimately lead quality and close rate, not just lead volume. So again, taken together, all these signals will help us understand really what visibility looks like, what real influence looks like, and hopefully what that impact on your business is in a search world. So why does all this matter? I'm sure a lot of you guys are thinking, I pay a company to do all this, I don't really care and don't have the time, and that's true. But as search is getting more complex, strategy and measurement have to evolve simultaneously, and they have to evolve together. And if they don't, we run the risk of really misreading performance. And that is definitely something as business owners we're all doing, right? We're constantly relying on data to make decisions. And we can start making the wrong decisions if we don't trust the data and we don't consider the context. So, right, we might double down on the wrong things. We might be cutting budgets or channels that we don't think are performing well because we're sticking to those old assumptions, or we optimize for what's easy to measure versus what's truly working for our business and driving growth. And really the goal isn't to just chase these new metrics or KPIs for the sake of it. It's to make better decisions so that we can grow. That's all that all of this is about business growth. So I won't spend a lot of time on this because I know you're more here to learn information than to have me sell to you, but if you can't tell, this all has been extremely top of mind for Coalmarch with everything that we do for our customers, and we are in the midst of a search evolution, and we're ready and prepared to evolve with our customers. So some of the ways that we're evolving to ensure that our digital marketing is AI ready, not just for our current customers, but for new customers as well. A lot of it leads back to your website, as we've talked about. And so we've made a variety of website platform enhancements that aim to make your website more readable and well understood by AI. One of the big ones being a proprietary content AI tool that we've built in-house that has extremely expansive persona and industry background context that is built into the tool to help with the creation of content for paid and organic landing pages. So that is essentially taking all of our industry knowledge on treatments, service protocols, bugs, all of that into a system to ensure reliability and accuracy. Our search optimization strategies also expanded beyond just Google. We're doing more offsite strategies than ever with link building, new websites. We're internally, we were just chatting about it earlier, getting ready to as soon as these ChatGPT ads, our clients are going to be advertising as soon as they're available to us. And then lastly, we're also in a bit of a reporting revolution that includes a lot of dashboard enhancements, ROI reporting that connects with Real Green and PestPack, AI lead qualification so that we can really hone in on lead quality, zero-click metrics for those people that are never even making it to your website, and also generative search visibility reporting, which in itself is a very nuanced thing and is hard to objectively measure because everybody is getting different results when they're using ChatGPT. But we've got some really good tools that we're using to assess that. So I encourage you to come by our booth and learn how we can help you if you're not already a customer, make your digital marketing more AI ready. But we're nearing the end of our session. Hopefully you have found this helpful in understanding how generative AI works and what it means for your business. Some of the key takeaways, I always prefer to leave my audience when I'm doing speaking like this with more mindset shifts than to-dos. Again, I think the tactical side of AI optimization is constantly changing because AI tools are constantly changing. So it's less about what we do tactically and more about how we think about it and how that influences how we run our business, how we do digital marketing. So the first one is that, again, SEO isn't dying, it's expanding. And that evolution is expanding into a broader digital presence for you. And that it's evaluating businesses holistically, not just tactically. And so focusing on your overall business health and quality is really what's going to put you ahead of your competitors. Your operations create credibility, and credibility is what earns visibility versus those tactical optimizations. And then lastly, AI is going to amplify what already exists. It's not going to fix it. So that's why starting at the foundation is really my biggest piece of advice here. So my homework for you guys, take it or leave it if you want. As we move into 2026, I want you to just replace one of those comfort marketing metrics with better questions. So, instead of asking why is traffic down, asking whether it's you have an internal team, you work with a vendor, what other indicators are there of visibility growth? Instead of why isn't the site converting more leads? It's what else is influencing decision making outside of the website and what are ways that we can improve that? And then lastly, what is this channel's cost per lead? In what ways does this support the full decision making journey outside of just cost per lead? Is there other value that it's bringing outside of just cost efficiency? So I think we should hopefully have some time for questions. No, we don't. Okay. I'll be outside if anybody has any follow-up questions, but thank you guys for joining me today.